We have referenced the term key performance indicators a number of times in this fourth module, and I want to spend a little bit of time now taking a deeper dive in thinking about key performance indicators, KPIs. What are your key performance indicators? What numbers, what metrics do you track on a regular basis? You, your team, your department, maybe even company-wide. On the next page in your handout, I think it's page 13, you have a whole page of examples of key performance indicators. Take a moment and review these at the completion of this video. Some of these KPIs may be relevant to your business, to your industry. Some may not. Some of these are more popular than others, but these are just good examples of different types of key performance indicators. By definition, key performance indicators are the operational, the leading, and the financial, the lagging measures that have the greatest impact on the success or failure of your company, particularly in financial terms. We began talking about and looking at KPIs back in the 1950s as a part of the total quality measurement movement of the 1950s. In the 1990s, as companies began creating what are referred to as balanced scorecards, they began including their KPIs in those balanced scorecards. And even today, we hear companies talk, I do, a lot about what are their KPIs and how are they tracking, when are they tracking those numbers. By the definition of key performance indicators, you might have noticed there are two categories, two buckets of KPIs. Leading indicators and lagging indicators, two different types of KPIs, leading and lagging. Lagging are indicative of the past, what has occurred in the past in terms of our financials. Leading are indicative of what we can expect in the future. So much of what we've already talked about in terms of the financial statements, those would all be examples of lagging key performance indicators. And what I want to suggest to you today is that I want you looking at both. I want you looking at both leading indicators and lagging indicators. It's important to be looking at both. And the example that I use is driving a car. Think about when you're driving a car, you're looking in any one of three directions, right? You're looking forward through the front windshield. You're looking backwards through the rearview mirror. And then you're looking down at your phone. But let's forget about that for a moment. You're looking forward, you're looking backward. When you're driving all the time, and of course, because it just makes sense, you want to see what's in front of you, you want to see what's behind you. And the same thing is true with your financials. You want to be able to look backwards and say, okay, what's already happened? You also want to be looking forward and anticipating what is in front of you. So if you want to try something kind of fun, maybe, the next time you get in your car, see how far you can drive your car only looking backwards, only looking at your rearview mirror. Can't look forward. I know that sounds kind of silly, but we do that in business all the time. We spend way too much time looking backwards, not nearly enough time looking forwards. Leading, lagging indicators. So I first got my introduction to key performance indicators when I was working in college during the summer. I used to work for my dad. He ran a large tire distribution business in South Florida. I thought I should have been working in the office. I thought I was management material. He thought different. I worked out in a warehouse, loading and unloading big semi-trucks of tires, big and small. At the end of almost every day, I would go into my dad's office. He had a nice big office. I'd go in, I'd plop down in a comfortable chair, and we would talk business. What happened that day? What did he work on? What were we working on? We'd share notes on any given day. But I remember in walking into his office every day, there was always on the corner of his desk, he had a nice big desk, corner of his desk, there was always a Post-it note, picture of, a yellow Post-it note. Always a Post-it note on the corner of his desk with numbers scribbled on that Post-it note. one day I came in and visited with my dad, and I asked him, I said, Dad, I come in here every day. I see that Post-it note with numbers on it. What's that all about? He looked at me and smiled for a moment. He said, that note shows up on my desk by 10 a.m. every morning, every day. 10 o'clock comes from the controller's office right across the hallway, he said. On that piece of paper, on that Post-it note, are 3 numbers. Sales the previous day, cash in the bank as of 10 o'clock this morning, and our accounts receivable as of 10 o'clock this morning. Sales, cash, receivables. He said, as long as I have those 3 numbers every day, he said, I can make just about any decision I need to make on any given day. Decisions about staffing, customer decisions, vendor decisions, inventory decisions. He said, give me those 3 numbers. I'm good on making just about any decision I need to make. He said, I would look at other numbers weekly. I'd look at my financial statements monthly, but every day I had those 3 numbers, call them key performance indicators, that I would look at every day. And so that was my introduction to this idea that he had 3 numbers, and if he had 3 numbers, every manager, every business leader must have at least 3 numbers that they're looking at on a daily basis. What are your 3 numbers? What numbers do you need to look at every day to make better decisions? So again, that was my introduction to this idea of key performance indicators. And I've also found that there are 5 important questions to ask about key performance indicators. And you'll find these on the next page in your handout. Let's go through them one at a time. 5 questions to ask about your KPIs. First question is, are your KPIs and corporate goals aligned? If the corporate goal, let's say, is to double in revenue this year, are your and my KPIs aligned with that corporate goal? They should be. They should be. That's the first question. Second question is, how often are you measuring these KPIs? How often do you need to measure? Is it daily? Is it weekly? Monthly? How often do you need to see these particular metrics? Third question, who gets to see these numbers? Is it you, your team, your department, your location, maybe the entire business? Who gets to see these KPIs? Who needs to see these KPIs? Number 4, how easy, and this is one that I think a lot of companies fail to think about, how easy is it to collect this data? Because there are some numbers, like cash in the bank, pretty easy to figure out how much cash we have in the bank on any given day. But if you're looking at a quality measurement, an efficiency measurement, a productivity measurement, those numbers may be harder to get our hands on a regular basis. They may be quite difficult to look at daily or weekly. So you just need to ask yourself, how easy is it to collect this information? And then finally, the 5th question about KPIs, and this is one I probably is most controversial, I'll say, in many companies, is, are employees being rewarded for achieving optimal KPIs? If we've set the bar here in terms of a particular number, a metric, and said, hey, this is really good, and we finish here, are people being rewarded for that, incentivized for achieving optimal key performance indicators? I think that's an important, very important question to answer. How are you doing your KPIs on these 5 questions?